Hey everyone, that's loud. It's pretty late on a Saturday. I appreciate you all hanging around. I've had a lot of caffeine, so just a warning in advance. The title of this talk comes from my response to everybody outside of my work that brings up crypto. Generally, they talk about it with me. They're like, it's over my head. I don't understand it. It's not for me. I'm not smart enough. And so every time I have to say, it's not you, it's crypto. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Building crypto is obviously complex. There are brilliant people in this facility right now that have created incredible things. But using it, I don't think has to be, for the most part. Maybe some things, are for advanced crypto native people, but in general, I think the real potential of the technology shouldn't be hard to use. And so I feel like this talk could be for a newcomer who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about crypto. I'm going to make you feel a little bit better maybe about the things that have confused you. But if you're a builder, hopefully you'll take some of these insights and perspectives and maybe integrate it into the work that you do. Obviously, the original intention of crypto was to shift some traditional power structures in order to be more frictionless. But we've got to reduce the most obvious barriers that are prolific today. And they are out there everywhere, even at Uniswap. And so I'm going to go through some examples. I'm not trying to shame any platforms or brands or anything like that. It's just examples of how complex these things can be and how challenging they are if we are trying to bring mass adoption to the industry. Some background about me, just in case you're like, why does this lady have the authority to speak on any of this? My career and my background has been in digital and financial inclusion. Some anecdotes from my past have been, I taught the Amish community how to use iPads in order to do business transactions, which was a very challenging task. But they were able to shorten their supply chain, fewer of their dairy products would spoil. I've worked with senior citizens and brought a 94-year-old woman to use Uber. I've worked with a lot of underserved populations in order to help them adopt new technologies and bring them up to speed with modern day. So like most people here, I got the inspiration to learn about crypto, but started with white papers and books, right? Not the typical consumer path that people are going to take in order to learn about a new technology or some new economy. And quite frankly, I had an absolute meltdown the first time I tried to mint an NFT. It felt very urgent because I had this opportunity, and I probably created 3 or 4 wallets before I even understood what I was doing. I had no idea. I think somebody was asking for my public address, and I kept seeing the word public key, and I didn't think they were the same thing. When I realized I'm not dumb and that these things are just confusing, I had a second meltdown. And that meltdown was my concern that if people didn't start paying attention to these nuances and the lexicon and the acronyms and the abbreviations, that nobody's going to realize the potential of this incredible technology. So a phrase on that previous slide was financial inclusion. This is something I think a lot about at Uniswap Labs. It's when individuals and businesses have access to useful and affordable financial products. So if you think about traditional central authorities like banks, they have the power to tell you if you can buy a house, if you can get a loan, and if you can't. So one of the beautiful things about DeFi or decentralized finance is that nobody can tell you what you can use. But if it's really hard, it's still going to be a huge barrier to most people and most populations. So that's where I want to cut away and just show some examples of this throughout the decentralized landscape. Again, no shame on these things. Uniswap does it. I'm personally guilty of doing it, but it's just to prove a point, and we'll get into the solutions that we can take in order to move through this. One of the biggest things is decentralized support. It means it doesn't really exist, right? PancakeSwap at one point last year just said, we don't have support. Best of luck. Ethereum doesn't have an official support channel. These things are obvious, I think, to the builders on why. There's a lot of Discord bots that will say, go read the documentation. And so Discord and Twitter, they're being used as customer feedback tools, support tools, and that's not what they're designed to do, and they're very bad at it. And the reasons why there's a lot. But to ask somebody, I mean, if you think of the consumer landscape, to ask somebody to go download a piece of software, create a login, and then go navigate your entire Discord just to go get an answer to a question, you're not going to do it. It's not going to scale. There's huge drop-off, and there's no data collected from the questions people are asking. So you may have anecdotal evidence, but certainly as your community grows and that Discord gets bigger and bigger, there's not going to be a way that you're going to know what the real themes are of what your users are asking for, what they need, what the issues are. And of course, in public channels and forums like that, everybody gets exposed. So you're putting them at risk for being, getting DMs for scams and things like that. Outdated info doesn't get archived. So you might have somebody searching for a question and they could find something that's really outdated and think that's the source of truth and move on with their day, and that could really damage your brand's reputation. And then of course, inconsistent expertise when you're relying on a community only. There are some people that have deep expertise, others may not, so you get some inconsistent, and there's not really a standardized way to provide information to people. The other thing is that new words are being used to describe new concepts, which is profoundly confusing in my opinion. These are all words we say all the time, they're all over this room, they're not in the dictionary. So in order to get people excited about new products, I think we should use some of the language they're using. We love acronyms in crypto. We love them. What is this even? There's so many I don't even know, some in here that I don't know. And I think we take these really complex technical terms and we forget that it's not consumer language. The one that kills me the most lately is the ENS address, when it's just a wallet name. I've seen so much confusion around this. Even seed phrase, right? I would assume that a lot of the reasons why people have compromised wallets over the years is because maybe they didn't understand the term seed phrase, which is a technical term. I understand why it makes sense internally to builders. But we have consumer language like passphrase, recovery phrase, password. And then fiat on-ramp is another one that I hear all the time. And I ask my friends in finance even sometimes, and they're not quite sure what that means, which cracks me up. The other thing is that the initial user touch points all are in postgraduate reading level. And so I understand if we're going really deep and technical with documentation, like I said in the beginning, crypto is really complex to build. That's reasonable. But the first sentences on our websites or on our help docs should not be postgraduate level. And most of them are. If you go through and you put them through, an editor like this, you'll see that even like the intro sentence is going to be postgraduate level, which I assume for people in this room, probably great. Maybe some of you have doctorates, but generally speaking, it's not going to get people excited and like that initial spark that you want for them to pay attention and understanding what they're doing. So now that I've gone through all that's wrong there, here's some things we can do, and a lot of these are examples of things that we've implemented at Uniswap Labs and seen some really positive results. And maybe the first question is like, why do we need to do any of this? Like, all of that's fine, we're all smart enough to figure this out. But like I said in the beginning, if our mission is to create a more equitable economy and open these things up to more populations, then we have to build user-aligned products. These are a few of the buckets that we think about at Uniswap. The first one's pretty obvious. These are all really kind of obvious. I don't feel like I'm bringing any profound knowledge to any of you, but they're essentially Web 2 optimizations that I think need to be integrated into Web 3. And that's a hot take. I know a lot of people don't love to hear that, but doing some standard automating to make things easier, educating, I think avoiding these acronyms, the crypto lexicon is really important. Creating accessible content, certainly for the getting started documents. We think about things in like a middle school reading level. Again, this doesn't have to be everything, but I think the getting started, the things for beginners, the introductory sentences on your websites should really be brought down a few notches. Empowering people, obviously with blockchain technology, there's a lot of times there's a transaction that doesn't go the way people want, and that's it, right? There's not a lot we can do. But I think there's a way to handle that with newcomers that has to be kind of like delicate. It's personal finance, it can be really emotional, but there's a lot of dead ends out there. And so I think providing resources to help people in the future is really important. And of course, using those data insights that you get when you're not using Discord and Twitter to hear from your users, you can use that to inform UI improvements. And then when it comes to support, I think private verified channels are super critical to keeping people safe and utilizing, obviously, very intentional communication strategy. And this is another one that's kind of a hot take, which is hiring customer experience expertise over crypto expertise. To me, it's way more valuable to find people who have experience and a ton of skills in dealing with customer situations, escalations, and things like that. You can teach anybody crypto, really. But I think there's a special personality and skill set that comes with somebody who's in customer experience that is way more valuable than somebody who has a lot of crypto experience. This is just a generic high-level thing, but we put a lot of this in place over the past year at Uniswap Labs, and the incident rate was brought down significantly. And we see also that a lot of those issues were deflected by the increase in help center views and our documentation, which hopefully, it's not the most obvious thing, but hopefully this tells us we're on the right track to bringing people in and making it a little bit more accessible and easy for newcomers. That's about it. But thank you all for coming, and check out the Uniswap wallet at our booth. And Josh, the bucket hat gentleman in the back, has some Uniswap swag. It's the last of it. So go see him if you want to snag that.